the 17-year-old girl struck and killed outside her school Tuesday.
I love my daughter so much. I'm going to miss her the rest of my life.
Grade 12 student Nadia Muzumber remembered as a leader in her community. Alongside the outpouring of sorrow today, demands for change so that what happened to her doesn't happen again. Plus,
I was angry, I was shocked, I was outraged.
family members are furious and speaking out after their loved ones' photos popped up in a controversial MPP's anti-vaccination post, suggesting they died from the COVID-19 vaccine. And
that would be a motivation for people either to rent or to sell the property so that it can increase the supply of housing.
will Toronto's vacant home tax help cool the city's red-hot housing market? The tax is set to come into effect in January, and the city is asking residents for their input. Kelda Yoon. The funeral was held today for the Scarborough teen who was struck and killed by a minivan earlier this week. 17-year-old Nadia Muzumber was crossing the road near her high school when she was hit. Today, an outpouring of grief as people gathered to remember her. The grief matched by anger and demands to make Toronto streets safer. Chris Glover has more.
Overcome with emotion, a community unites to mourn the loss of a beloved girl. 17-year-old Nadia Muzumder was struck by a vehicle and killed on Tuesday.
I lost my everything.
Prior to her funeral, her father, Azizol, spoke proudly of his eldest daughter.
She was a very good girl. I love my daughter so much. I'm going to miss her the rest of my life.
As the service began, he became too distraught to speak. Nadia's parents separated many years ago. Her dad lives in Hamilton with her two younger half-sisters, while the grade 12 student lived alone with her mother in Toronto. Today, her mom needing support as she left the service in tears.
She's seeing such a dream that takes our community in the future.
She had a big,
was amazing.
big vision to serve the community. You know, we have lost our daughter.
Family and friends say Nadia was active in the community, including as a political volunteer in the last provincial election.
You know, when you talk to her, you would think you were talking to someone who is 28, 30, so way beyond beyond her age. Yeah, I don't know, it's pretty heartbreaking.
On Tuesday, family friend Maqsood Husseini made it to Nadia's hospital bedside even before her father got there.
I hope whoever is watching this, whenever you see a pedestrian, regardless if it's a young, old, youth, please slow down.
The collision happened just before noon on Tuesday while Nadia was crossing Danforth at Birchmount near her high school. Her family and friends now begging for reduced speeds around the school and other safety measures.
It is time they should come forward and change many things.
We have to come up with a concrete plan where people, before doing it, think twice, thrice.
A child with great potential within our community has been lost to us.
Canada's Public Safety Minister Bill Blair, who is also the MP for the neighbourhood, spoke at her funeral.
You know, there are things that are always reviewed in these sad circumstances to make sure that speed limits are appropriate and that the rules are well in place and well enforced.
As the police investigation continues, school officials have pledged to work with the city to improve safety for students.
I need justice for my daughter. I'm not, it's like these things never going to happen again to someone else.
Even though his own daughter is no longer here, Azizol hopes her tragic death can save the lives of other children. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
We can now tell you when capacity limits will ease at gyms and restaurants in this province. A senior government official tells CBC News that establishments can start welcoming more customers starting Monday. The official, who was not authorized to speak on the record, says the changes were approved at a cabinet meeting today. CBC was the first to report that the Doug Ford government is set to announce its new plan for lifting more COVID-19 restrictions this week. Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Kieran Moore, has said he first wanted to see the impact of Thanksgiving. With the incubation period over, the official says the government is confident it can proceed with the phased plan to safely reopen. We're expecting more details from the Premier tomorrow. And there is outrage tonight from some bereaved Ontario families after their loved ones' photos were found on a series of anti-vaccination social media posts by MPP Randy Hillier. Hillier has been vocal in his criticism of COVID-19 lockdowns. Well, now families want answers after they say he used pictures of their loved ones to falsely claim their deaths were caused by the vaccine. Lorenda Redicop reports.
Farisa Navab died just over a month ago. She'd been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder, but her sister can't believe that on social media, her death is being linked to the vaccine.
I was angry, I was shocked, I was outraged. It hurts to see somebody with a large following and somebody who people think is a credible source post misinformation online for thousands of people to see.
Her sister's picture appears on social media posts by independent MPP Randy Hillier. He connects multiple Ontario deaths or injuries to vaccine side effects.
It is false. It is 100% false.
She says she wrote to him, but he blocked her. Hillier has frequently spoken out against lockdowns. He's been charged for defying public health restrictions. He was elected as a PC, but kicked out of the party. Navab says she's tried to report these posts through social media.
I see a button on there and it says report this, but when I report it, nothing happens. So what is the point of that button? It's nothing. It's just false hope.
Facebook tells CBC it's looking into it. The husband of a Toronto woman whose name no longer appears on the page says he reached out directly to Hillier. Her name and photo are now removed, but the information remains. Her husband tells me she died suddenly while on a run in High Park. The full autopsy is still underway, but the most recent update he received is there's no evidence this had anything to do with the vaccine. He and his wife's friends feel something needs to be done to stop this. The Speaker's office responded to CBC saying it has no authority over social media posts, but that members are subject to the Integrity Act. The Integrity Commissioner investigates complaints coming from other MPPs. The NDP tells me it's working on putting one together. Randy Hillier sent a statement not responding to the family's concerns, but calling on the OPP to investigate these and other tragic deaths. Amara Navab says she's now constantly receiving messages from people who oppose the vaccine.
I don't have the ability to mourn in peace. Like, I have to fight anti-vaxxers every day. I should be focusing on my own mental well-being rather than all of these people who just want to make conspiracy theories.
Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children placed 147 of its employees on unpaid leave today for not submitting proof of if they've been vaccinated against COVID-19. Now, back in August, Sick Kids and 2 other Ontario hospitals announced vaccine mandates that didn't include an option to forego vaccination and undergo regular testing. The hospital says approximately 1.8%, or roughly 146 employees, still have an unknown status. They have all been placed on unpaid leave, but Sick Kids says it hopes they will submit proof and return to work. The hospital adds it does not anticipate any disruptions to patient care as a result of the vaccine policy. Let's go to meteorologist Colette Kennedy now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, another cloudy one out there today and a cool down coming.
Yeah, we do have a cool down coming our way, and this is going to be a little bit hard to adjust to for some anyway, and losing most of that wet weather, but keeping the cool air behind. So I know for most it's getting very close to bedtime, so something else we need to put to bed are temperatures like this, because these were the daytime highs. We won't be seeing these for a while. 19 in Windsor, 17 for Toronto, Barrie, Peterborough at 16, and Ottawa as well, and 17 there for those of you watching from Kingston. Kingston. And yeah, some of the more organized rain shower activity and a few embedded. We had a few isolated thunderstorms off into eastern Ontario, just some drizzly, lighter stuff that's quite widely scattered behind. That carries on through the overnight. Yes, you're starting to see a little bit of mixed precipitation there up into northeastern Ontario with some of the cooler temperatures there. The cloud cover, that's going to be hard to break out of. Now, this model is wanting to be pretty optimistic with giving us a lot of sun tomorrow afternoon. I think could be a case where we get into sunny breaks and a mix of sun and cloud at times, but there's still going to be a lot of cloud cover around as well. 6 overnight tonight as we dry out. 10 degrees. That's it, Kelda, for tomorrow.
All right. Thanks so much, Colette. The City of Toronto announced today several measures to create more affordable housing. It's also looking for feedback on its Vacant Home Tax, which will come into effect next year. The tax is aimed at boosting housing supply to help cool the city's red-hot housing market. But not everyone thinks it will work. Dale Manukduk reports.
The city's Planning and Housing Committee will consider 3 reports next week. The first is Inclusionary Zoning, which would ensure that 5 to 10% of condo development in 2022 be allocated to affordable units.
We're going to get more affordable housing built, and we're going to make sure this city is a city in which everyone can find an affordable place to call home.
The plan would see that number of affordable units rise between 8 and 22% by 2030. The other goals are a multi-unit residential program that would help nonprofit and Indigenous housing groups, and in addition to 4 sites of the city's Housing Now program, which would create up to 600 new affordable homes.
The new affordable rental homes to be created under this program will provide much-needed housing options to households between $21,000 and $68,000 a year.
The city is also seeking feedback from Torontonians on a new vacant home tax that kicks in January. It's meant to encourage property owners to sell or rent out their unoccupied residential properties to increase Toronto's housing supply.
Yes, we will see some increase, but that would certainly not make a difference.
Murtaza Haider, a real estate management professor at Ryerson University, believes those who have a vacant unit at their disposal have it for a reason. He also believes it will be difficult for the city to determine the validity of a vacant home and that there would be several cases for exemption.
So there could be many reasons related to health, maybe related to taking care of a family member in a different city or different place. All of this could be valid reasons for people to be away from their dwellings.
Vancouver introduced an empty homes tax in 2017 and says the tax cut down 25% of vacant properties since its launch. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Police are looking for at least 2 suspects after a fatal shooting near Keele and Shepherd this morning. A man was killed and another injured after they attended what police called a private event. Natalie Collada reports.
Police canvassed Bakerfield Street near Shepherd Avenue looking for security camera footage and answers.
At this point, I have reason to believe that there's at least 2 suspects involved in this, and we're trying to ascertain whether or not they would have fled the area by way of vehicle. I have reason to believe that they would have done so.
Police were called to the area just before 3:30 this morning after reports of gunshots. Paramedics found a man in his 30s suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He was taken to hospital and later died. A second man suffered non-life-threatening injuries.
We certainly have some reason to believe that our deceased was targeted. As for the other individual that was injured, that's something that we're studying right now.
Including if the space was being used as an after-hours club.
We believe that they had attended a private event at the building here behind me, and were socializing here prior to the shooting occurring.
The incident is the 3rd shooting in North York this week. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police have charged 4 people after breaking up what they say was an identity theft and fraud ring. It also led investigators to thousands of fraudulent gift cards.
The 37,000 cards that we seized could be anywhere from $50 to $500 each. So we're talking millions and millions of dollars of potential fraud that was prevented with the seizure of the gift cards alone.
Investigators dubbed the year-long operation Project Hydra. It's alleged the suspects stole the identities and personal banking information of their victims and then used that information to create fraudulent IDs. The fake IDs were then used to go into financial institutions to take over accounts. The investigation also led to the seizure of a Porsche. 4 people have been arrested. Altogether, they're facing nearly 100 charges. Welcome back. A group of illegally parked trailers in the Portlands is growing larger. Businesses nearby say garbage is piling up, and so are complaints to the city. Chris Ensing reports.
Glenn Harrington owns a workshop in the Portlands, creating custom furniture.
You get the dining room tables, coffee tables, fireplace models, etc.
Everything but the kitchen sink. You can find that just outside. This is a growing pile of someone else's junk. It's a new problem Harrington connects to a familiar one. Illegally parked mobile homes, a makeshift trailer park between Lakeshore Boulevard East and Commissioner Street.
Since COVID began, there's more trailers brought in that never move. You see a lot of garbage accumulating, a lot of hoarding, and then petty theft.
There's about a dozen trailers, some here for decades, ticketed but not towed. Photos shared with CBC News show what sits under this blue tarp. Dozens of bicycles, suspected stolen property. Harrington has complained to the city and police for months.
I know in certain parts of the city that this wouldn't last long.
On Tuesday, Toronto Danforth councillor Paula Fletcher told CBC News it won't last much longer.
I've been hearing about it for a little while. The really big escalation is around what appears to be a lot of materials, bikes.
Hours later, police seized dozens of bicycles and arrested one man, launching an investigation. In a statement, the city said they're aware of the illegally parked trailers and were clearing up debris last week. This afternoon, a step further. After complaints to the city, this vehicle here, an empty bus, is being removed from Logan, but not all of the vehicles will be towed away from this area.
If somebody's in a little camper van down in the Portlands where nobody lives on the street for the pandemic, I'm sorry, I don't have a problem with that. Maybe it doesn't look great, but I don't have a problem. I have a problem with this, and I acted very quickly.
Harrington says this is a great start, but he'd like to see these trailers move next.
The mayor says that the city park isn't safe, then living beside a city transfer station, which is a nice word for a garbage dump, that shouldn't be safe either.
Fletcher says there's a couple more abandoned vehicles that will be removed, and she'll work with the city to get this stretch cleaned up, but occupied trailers will stay.
They're dry, they're safe, they're warm while we ride out this pandemic, and then see what we're going to do after that.
Chris Ensing, CBC News, Toronto.
Cloudy tonight with some light rain, clearing in the overnight. Temperatures also taking a dip overnight. Currently, though, holding steady at 15 degrees. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your long-range forecast. And Colette, the last day of milder temperatures before more fall-like weather comes our way.
Yeah, so, you know, if you're somebody who really likes to embrace all those nice sweaters and all that kind of, you know, those comfort foods and things like that, yeah, now the weather's going to cooperate a little bit more for you. We've got the rain showers moving out tonight, but still some of that cloud cover hanging in. Say goodbye to those temps. And it does look like we could get into a bit of, if not rainy, but kind of grayer skies into next week. And I'm thinking like from Tuesday sort of onward through much of the week. So going to be watching that kind of carefully, but it's still several days out. So let's deal more with what's happening here in the short term, which we have higher confidence level in. And as we do see a lot of that cloud cover now, I believe it's going to be in between kind of what I was showing you earlier in the show and this. This is really, really heavy cloud deck. I think we will see more sunny breaks developing or at times through the day, but some of those low clouds can be pretty persistent. So don't expect high pressure, bright sunshine or that kind of thing. As we go into the weekend, now some of those clouds Saturday morning, but watch what comes in towards the afternoon. Pretty isolated, kind of moving about through the city and up to the north. It begins to get a little more organized late day. But that's just something to watch for, that we could have second half of the day Saturday, a little bit of wet weather, slight chance into Sunday as well. Overnight tonight in southwestern Ontario, those winds, the reason I have them 10 to 30 is because they start off closer to 30 and then diminishing as we go towards the morning hours. Big change tomorrow with those daytime highs. And then overnight tonight, this also is going to take a little bit of adjusting too. So a cooler start tomorrow morning. The northwesterly winds will also be backing off as we go into the afternoon hours around the Golden Horseshoe. So not as breezy as certainly we've been seeing some of the conditions today, earlier with southwesterly winds and then with the northwesterly shift. But because of that shift, Markham 9 degrees, Oshawa 9, didn't even give you double digits. We'll see. It's going to be close. Just so much to kind of get ourselves, wrap our heads around, right? Saturday, 10 again for the daytime high. Keep an eye on those overnight lows. Those are really important too because we tend to hit those around 7 a.m., right? So it's really into the morning hours. Sunday, a little bit of a bump up and then that pattern next week. I'll be watching this kind of carefully. I'm still not ready to commit to heavy rain coming in, but maybe some showers coming at the beginning of the week. Kelda?
All right, thanks so much, Kelda. Stage and screen actor Martha Henry has died. Here's a clip of her as Prospero in her 2018 performance of The Tempest.
But this rough magic I here abjure, and when I have required some heavenly music, which even now I do, to work mine end upon their senses that this airy charm is for, I'll break my staff.
The 83-year-old died just 12 days after completing a run of performances at the Stratford Festival. She featured prominently at that event over the years, with appearances dating back nearly 6 decades. She won a long list of awards during her long career, including 5 Genie Awards and 3 Gemini Awards. Henry was also a successful director of productions across Canada and abroad. Theatre critics say she was gifted, passionate, and inspiring to all those around her.
She illuminated every character she inhabited. She illuminated every play that she directed. She brought out the best in everybody who was on that stage with her because they all wanted to do as well as they could. They wanted to rise to her occasion.
Henry was diagnosed with cancer last year. Tonight, the marquee lights at Mirvish theaters were dimmed in her memory. In a statement, Mirvish Productions called Henry a giant of theater, a magnificent actor, and a kind and inclusive member of the community. Henry starred in the Mirvish production of Copenhagen in 2004. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.